So welcome back to another episode of Coffee and Construction. So this is where I answer your questions from the comment section of the previous video. So if you have any questions, of course, throw them in there. They should be construction related or something like that. Not personal questions. I haven't had a problem with that yet, but I did see one a few episodes back. That's why I mention it. And yeah, of course, this is just my personal opinion. You should always check with your local jurisdiction, your local codes and regulations, and make sure, this all works. And I did glance through some of the questions, and that's definitely going to apply here. And I'll point that out when we get to it. So we can start things right off. We got our first question here. It's from Deanna Stout. I hope that was supposed to be two names and not Dean a Stout. I don't know. It's all one word basically when I read your name. So if I get it wrong, I apologize. Can you use Mylar under the floor when putting down floor planks? So if you're talking about using it as an underlayment, I wouldn't recommend it, because the purpose of an underlayment is usually to, keep a buffer between the finished floor and the subfloor. And there's a number of reasons why you want that. But as far as insulation value, yeah. In fact, in the attic here at the house I'm working on in the back, the sheathing they use for the ceiling actually has Mylar coated on one side. And you can get Mylar for, exterior sheathing products. There's not really any reason you couldn't put it on the floor. It's probably not the biggest benefit though, just because you're not usually trying to insulate between floors. If it's going into a crawl space, yeah, there could be a lot of benefit there. But I would look for a product that already has the Mylar attached to it, because otherwise it's this really flimsy sort of, foil sheet, and it's really frustrating to try and lay out. I only know that because there were so many of these Mylar blankets here when we got into the property, and I'm talking hundreds and hundreds. Yeah, I would look for a product that already has it built into it. There's going to be something somewhere. But in terms of the actual benefits, I don't know how many there really would be to putting it on a subfloor. And between the flooring and the floor itself, I don't really see too many benefits there, but maybe there are. I just know it's not really done, and it's not an underlay. So I guess that's about as well as I can answer that one. So now we've got Jane Godchuck. And this is more of a statement, but I wanted to bring it up because it's kind of a relevant point, actually. It's interesting. So firemen are not a big fan of metal roofs. Makes fighting attic fires almost impossible. So, and that's, I brought it up because that's something that I hadn't actually considered. If you go through all the pros and cons of one thing versus the other, there's going to be a lot of things that are kind of out of sight, out of mind. And those sort of disasters and emergencies are not usually the thing we're thinking about when we're choosing products. But I would agree, if you got a metal roof on there and attic fires, I mean, they can get pretty vicious. So that would be a consideration if you are choosing one over the other. So yeah, I figured I'd bring that up. And that's also, I'm not sure if you recall, but when I did the electrical meter and updated all the electrical over there, I put an emergency shutoff. And the purpose of that is that there's an outside disconnect, because electrical fires are very difficult to stop as well. So being able to turn power off from the outside, it's a huge benefit. So that's why that's now code in most areas. So yeah, a lot of the local codes and regulations have these things in mind. But when it comes to things like having a metal roof, that's not going to be in code. So that's just practical advice. So now we got Joe Clements. Hi Andrew, you may have answered this before. We have seen most every episode, but what is the plan for vapor barrier? I know you intend to keep the walls, but the ceiling is open now, and I suspect you'll do poly, not just that nasty old craft paper. Also, hello from Ontario. So he says hello from Ontario, and that's a relevant point here. And this is why I'm going to go back to what I was saying before, my little disclaimer at the beginning regarding checking with local codes and regulations. So I'm from Ontario, and in Ontario it's actually code to use poly. You will still find the craft paper there, but that just means that the insulation hasn't been updated in quite some time. Poly has been standard for all my career. It's been standard for quite a while over there. It's more common now to see plastic behind the wall than it is paper. So the process with that is you buy bare bats. There's no paper, nothing adhered to them. You apply those to the wall, and you put a 6mm poly over top. It's a 6mm thick plastic, and then you either acoustic seal the joints where they overlap, or you taped them. I prefer acoustic sealant, especially when I got a new guy working on it, because it comes out of a caulking gun. It's like tar. And to see how black they are by the end of the day is just hilarious. It's near impossible to get that stuff off as well. It doesn't come off just in the shower. I remember using gas to get it off and other products, but it's really hard to get off if you are using acoustic sealant. Now, that being said, here in Michigan, when it comes to codes and regulations, building practices, things like that, the rule of thumb is when in Rome, do as the Romans. So that is not standard here. In fact, buying that poly, the acoustic sealant I talked about, you can't even find it on the shelf at Home Depots here. It's just not the practice. And if I put it up, there's a good chance the inspector coming in, if he's never seen it before, he might fail it just because, I mean, it looks foreign. There's nothing wrong with it. It vapor locks the house, essentially, and brings it closer to what you might consider a SIPS house. And the craft paper is, yeah, it's old-fashioned, even compared to a lot of states. And I'm trying to recall, I don't look these things up too often, but I know states like Minnesota, I think, and Wisconsin might be a little more progressive when it comes to these building practices. But yeah, the craft paper is still the standard here in Michigan. And sticking with standards with things like that, you can upgrade the insulation, but it still wouldn't have a vapor barrier here. So you're always best to stick with the local practices. And my personal opinion of the craft paper, it's been used for a very long time, and as long as it's done properly, it works just fine. And by done properly, I mean there's a couple of no-nos when it comes to installing it. Because if you do it properly, you should have a decent vapor lock. It's a waxed paper, I believe, and it should work just fine for insulation value. All right, so moving on to Mary, 9012. Question. I noticed your extension ladder has a stabilizer, in quotations, on the top of it that sits on the roof. Is this what I should use for cleaning out my gutters on the garage? I have heard if I lean the extension ladder against the eaves trough, it will dent. If so, is there any brand or style you think are better than other types? So a stabilizer, more specifically, is when you're referencing it to ladders, usually sits at the bottom and it helps keep the ladder stable. Or it could be something up top that helps keep the ladder stable. And you could consider it a stabilizer in a sense because it grabs more area. But what that's actually referred to is a standoff. So it's a ladder standoff. And yeah, when it comes to cleaning gutters, I absolutely recommend it. I use them all the time. And no particular brand. I have a number of brands. I usually just grab what's available. Most of my work is off ladders or up high. So, you know, I have a lot of this equipment just kicking around. And the brands are actually rubbed off of them. But honestly, you just go into the store and you grab what's available. There's not too many differences between them. There's some that slip into the rungs and then they're on the sides, and then there's another style that slips over the rungs in the front. The ones that slip in on the sides, they're just these kind of metal U-shaped pieces. I actually prefer those. I don't think they're considered the safest though, so I'm not going to make any serious recommendations on that. I haven't seen them for sale in a while. That usually means that they were determined less safe, at least. So I would just pick up what's available, quite frankly. They all work, but yeah, they're great. They make other products because, yeah, eaves trough is one of the biggest issues when I get onto a job, because if it is up, you don't want to dent it. It's very easy to dent. So positioning a ladder, even just moving the ladder a little bit while it's leaning against the eaves trough, you stand a really good chance you're going to scuff it. There's another product they make. I don't remember what it's called. But you can essentially you can put it on the end of a pole, and on the pole you can raise it up into the air and drop it against the eaves trough, and it'll sort of cup itself in, and it gives you something to lean your ladder on. Now I don't highly recommend that one, only because if you happen to have a leaf guard in or something like that, a gutter guard, they don't work. But yeah, those ladder standoffs are great. I use them all the time. And yeah, I highly recommend them. They are a little safer on the wall too, I will say. And a lot of that has to do when you get towards the top of an extension ladder, you really don't want your body up against the wall. If you can have it backed off a little bit, that's safer. Even just that in and of itself, it makes you a lot more stable. So let's move on to the next question here. So Kim Gray says, "Hi Andrew, I live in a mobile home with a crawl space. It has developed a soft spot in the bathroom under the linoleum. It is only about a foot square, but I want to take care of it before it gets worse. Do you have any suggestions?" Well, you've already taken care of my first suggestion, and that's, take care of it right away. If you leave a rotten spot like that, I mean, the damage is just going to get worse, even though it's done rotting from the wetness. The problem's not going to fix itself. So if it is soft, I would actually recommend removing a patch. You're going to have, I would just take out a little bit of the subfloor and patch in another piece. It's not that bad, I want to say. It would take me very little time, and as long as you're replacing the floor, it's not that big of a deal. And that's if it's soft. If it's hard enough that you can walk on, no problem, don't worry about it. But I would first and foremost recommend just cutting it out. And the best practice for that, I find, is just grab a piece the right thickness, hold it over, and I always have the piece I'm putting in cut out before I cut out the floor. And the reason being is I'll hold it right over top, and I'll trace a line based on the piece I'm putting in, and it gives me a perfect cutout that way. And so once you have the cutout, you get the piece removed. You're going to make some replacement cleats. Probably want to make sure it goes all the way to the nearest floor joists, half on. If you YouTube patching a subfloor, you're going to find plenty of material on that, and that's what I would recommend doing. So I think that's all for that one. Yeah. So yeah, don't leave a soft spot. That's just, that's a problem that's just going to keep getting worse. So now we've got, I think that's supposed to say Asgard 41. Dude. Okay, this is a guy. "How much is it to move an electrical box? Our home was built on the side of a pre-existing house, and when it was built, the fuse box was left in an awkward spot where it's easier to go outside and through the cellar door rather than stumble through the rooms of the basement. Is it possible to move it closer to the stairs?" So that's a tough one. I would say yes, it is possible, but there's a very good chance it's extremely involved. The biggest problem is the lines that are running to the box. I'm not even worried about the service lines. If I wanted to move the box in my house, it'd be very easy because, I was doing all the electrical from scratch and running a new service line. The biggest problem is all those lines terminate in that particular location. So in order to move it, and I'm just going to say it's not a good idea to have that kind of a junction. You don't want to have all those wires reaching a junction there and then moving back over to another box. What you're talking about, if you're moving at any substantial distance that those lines can't reach as they are, then you're looking at rewiring your house. So moving a panel box is kind of a big deal. And that's, So short answer is yes, it's possible. Long answer is you're going to be getting in head deep if you're looking at a project like that. It's unfortunate news, but there are certain jobs that are just very involved, and that's definitely one of them. It's also one where I would say you're definitely you're going to want a professional involved, because if you were doing that kind of rewiring and trying to do minimal demolition, you want somebody who's well trained, knows exactly what they're doing. Otherwise, you're going to wind up gutting the house. So, yeah, that's unfortunately that's a tough one. So we've got pets and treats. Question: I have a rental where the tenant had a pet that ruined the bedroom carpet with urine. It soaked through the subfloor. I plan on installing vinyl planks. I want to prime the subfloor. Would you suggest oil-based primer or water-based primer? So I guess I got a couple suggestions there. First of all, I'm sorry to hear about that. That's a nasty thing to find, and I've seen that in a lot of houses I've worked with. So yeah, urine can be a real pain. I would say when you pull up the carpet, and Xana should be editing this, so I'm going to see if she can just double check what I'm talking about here. But there's a product we use to neutralize urine odors, because we have pets, and it's something we've had to deal with. I believe it's called Nature's Miracle. It comes in a little squirt bottle. It's an enzyme that neutralizes urine, and it works great. We swear by it. We use it all the time. So that's what I would recommend for that before you do anything. And the reason I say that is, as much as painting over it works, all that really does is encapsulate it. It's not a neutralizer. But that being said, after you do neutralize it, it is still a good idea, because there's going to be water damage and other things on there. It is a good idea to prime it. Now, in terms of the primer I use, the trade standards, I'm not going to recommend oil-based, and the only reason I'm not going to do that is because if I recommend oil-based, most of the people watching this are not going to be able to get it. So oil-based has been gone from Ontario for quite some time. It's now all water-based there, or waterborne. And when I moved to Michigan, I think it was only a year or two later that oil-based disappeared from here. And it's slowly leaving other areas. State by state, it's leaving the United States. It's been gone from California for a long time and other places. So I'm not going to recommend oil-based for that reason. I'm a little bit sad about that, because I think the oil-based actually had a superior finish. But I do think that, technology does eventually catch up, and the waterborne is catching up very fast. So I have no problems with the waterborne. So that's my recommendation as far as that goes. In terms of what I use for a primer like that, it's what I would recommend is actually going with the right brand. Because some brands work much better than others. I would use either a Kills or a Bin Zinzer product when it comes to covering over damage with paint. And if you go in, and it's sold at any big box store, both brands pretty much. Sometimes they'll have one or the other, but they're going to have one of them, and they're both fine. A lot of what I use for my exterior stuff, it's a stain blocker, and it's a shellac base. Now, what you get varies, but I would just read the label and say, and look for what it works most effectively for. It's going to be right on the front. It'll be for smoke damage. It'll be for water damage. Keeping stains from bleeding through, things like that. And you're going to find something that is meant to, basically encapsulate what you're after. Maybe something that it's meant for dealing with odor. That's what I would look for. But that's all I would recommend as far as the paint goes. All right, so that's it for this episode, and I thank you for your questions. And yeah, if you have any more, feel free to leave them in the comment section down below, and I appreciate it. It's I don't mind doing it, and yeah, I don't know, it's kind of fun sometimes. I've had to look a few things up before I before I speak too, so I'm learning a little bit from it as well. Now, this is obviously not Thursday, So Xana and I are taking turns a little bit. She wasn't ready to do her unboxing video, so I'm giving her a little bit of time with this, so that's been handy, I guess. So you can look forward to that this coming Thursday, and till next week, I'll see you then.